So if you clicked on this video, I'm assuming that you must have watched 1,000 takes on the Sydney Sweeney controversy that has been ripping the internet. And perhaps you're looking for a more nuanced conversation rather than just the political debate that's been going on. And just in case you don't know who Sydney Sweeney is, or what's the big deal about, and you have not watched the commercial because you've been living under a rock, let's watch it together.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has great genes.
So while the left has been accusing the American Eagle Company of promoting fascist ideology because they decided to feature a hot blonde with blue eyes, blonde hair, these Aryan features.
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda.
The right has been celebrating the death of wokeism and finally the return of actual beauty standards, where we're not being forced to believe that a morbidly obese person, is the new beauty standard.
The liberals saw a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes and thought she was ushering in the Fourth Reich.
She is not Dylan Mulvaney. She's not a plus-size swim model on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She's not a male prom queen. She's a hot, beautiful, biological woman.
Well, they're saying it's about a return to whiteness. I think it's a return to hotness.
American society going back to what we traditionally see as beauty, which is just women looking like women.
But in today's video, I want to make the case that I believe that both of the sides are missing the more nuanced conversation. What would Jesus say to a woman like Sydney Sweeney, who does indeed have great genes? And more than that, I want to talk about in general, what does Christianity have to say to someone who possesses sex appeal, physical attractiveness, who possesses beauty in a sense? So in today's video, I'm going to make these key points about just the nature of beauty. And maybe this is going to be more of like a philosophical, slight religious conversation, although I don't like the term religious. I just want to say, what does Christianity have to say about beauty? So the first point that I want to make is that beauty is truly a gift of God. We were literally made for beauty. There's something about us as human beings when we behold a beautiful sunset, or we look at a beautiful flower, or for that matter, we look at, at a beautiful face, like of a woman or a man, that it sort of like instinctively commands worship from us. It almost like stops us for a split second, right? So in a sense, we were made for beauty. And that actually points to the fact that beauty is not random. Okay, evolution didn't just randomly create perfectly symmetrical face or the beautiful sunset. And oftentimes symmetry is associated with beauty. In fact, I didn't even know that beauty was actually a whole branch of philosophy. I remember when I first found out and I was like, I can't believe that actually there's a whole branch of philosophy dedicated to beauty, because beauty actually points to objective truth, to absolute truth. I know people want to say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and there's an objectivity towards truth based on symmetry and certain factors that make something truly beautiful that we like, ooh, that's captivating, right? Beauty is a gift of God. In fact, the sadness though is that oftentimes when we look at the beautiful, nature, or we look at the beautiful sunset, or we look at the beautiful person, we start worshiping that object. We start worshiping whether that's nature, whether that's that person, rather than understanding that beauty actually points to a greater beauty, which is God himself. One of the reasons why we cannot see God face to face is because he is so beautiful. Oftentimes, if you look at somebody who's more attractive than you, or is physically very striking, it almost like we somehow feel super insecure around this person. If we were to actually stand before God, we would literally be obliterated. We would absolutely melt from his beauty. There is an objectivity towards beauty, that is undeniable, that is self-evident, that is true, that it's a gift of God to humanity. Can you imagine this world without beauty? How absolutely bleak the world would be. So it is a gift of God, which ought to always point and reflect back to him. But sadly, rather than worshiping the beauty giver, we worship the beautiful objects, which actually were just meant to point to him. So if you are an attractive person like Sydney Sweeney, or you're a beautiful woman like Sydney Sweeney, or you just have great genes in general, you should live your life understanding that you possessed a gift. You were bestowed a gift that you did not work for, right? Which leads me to the next point, which is this, that beauty holds power. It is absolutely undeniable that beautiful people hold power. I mean, we naturally listen more carefully to somebody who's attracted talking to us. It commands attention. It's involuntary. It almost like forces you to pay attention, right? But the sadness of it is that oftentimes beauty corrupts. Beauty leads to pride and selfish ambition. Rather than using the gift of beauty for good, we use it for selfish gain. If you're a beautiful woman, it's very easy. And for the sake of our conversation, obviously when I say a beautiful woman, I mean also a beautiful man. Anything that I say about a beautiful woman can be said about a beautiful man or a handsome man. But I'm going to keep it like it's simpler for me to talk about beautiful woman. If you are a beautiful woman, it is very easy for you to start wrapping your identity in that gift. Rather than seeing it as a gift that has been given to you by God, you start putting all your worth and security in being and upkeeping this image of beauty. In a sense, you can use it even in a dark sense, you can use it to manipulate. I mean, like Delilah is a perfect example in the Bible of how she used beauty to manipulate Samson, right? I mean, the tale of beautiful women seducing men and manipulating is as old as time, right? So you can use your beauty and your charm and all these things for selfish ambition, to elevate your social status, to bring money into your life, all these things. And this is how Hollywood, beautiful women, Sydney Sweeney, and all the beautiful women in Hollywood, that's how they use their beauty. They use their beauty to sort of tap into men's lust, to prey upon people's insecurities to some degree. Everything they do is to upkeep this image. And sadly, the irony of it is, and the more you wrap yourself in this idol, the more it destroys you, because at the end of the day, all beautiful women get old, okay? And it's a sad thing, when you think about most of sex symbols, a great example of this is Marilyn Monroe. Like, look how her life panned out. She was a beautiful woman who had influence, and she used her beauty to get ahead, to prey on men's lusts and things like that. But sadly, she was also used, she was never truly loved for who she was, right? Like, she was also used. The more you use your beauty to manipulate and charm people for selfish gain, the thing that happens is that you then lose the ability to see how others use you for their own gains, and so it creates a very sad existence. You're constantly performing, you're always trying to upkeep, and you can never relax, and you can never know that you're unconditionally loved, right? When I read the biography of Marilyn Monroe, I mean, like, what a sad story. And that is unfortunately the end of many beautiful rich women, who are either replaced by younger women who are addicted to plastic surgery and they just end up uglier than they ever been. That is the sadness of beauty that's been misused, that's been corrupted. Which leads me to the next point, which I already touched on, is that beauty is fleeting. The Bible literally says that charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, but the woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. So essentially what I think Jesus would say to a woman like Sydney Sweeney is that don't wrap your identity in this idol of beauty, because at the end of the day, you are going to get old. This idol will literally wreck your heart, and don't try to be the sex symbol, this woman, that is worshipped. Instead, what Jesus would say is that wrap your identity in me. So here's the thing, the biblical understanding of beauty, if you do possess physical attractiveness, there's nothing wrong in appreciating the way God made you. David says that I'm wonderfully fearfully made, literally in the Psalms. But there's something deeply wrong if you understand that this is a gift of God and you use it for selfish ambition and you wrap your whole identity in your gift rather than in the gift giver. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus and you've made this beauty your idol, it will eventually break your heart. Now, oftentimes beautiful women are like these beautiful houses that look shiny on the outside, but you walk in, there's darkness, there's coldness, there's just sadness on the inside. So if you're a beautiful woman, tend to your inner world, tend to your inner beauty, tend to things that are of eternal value, tend to the internal garden of your heart, of your thoughts, of your mind. Beautify your inner world so that one day when you do lose all the appeal from the outside, you have made an incredibly rich and strikingly gorgeous garden that God has helped you grow on the inside. I think that is how I want to beautifully age. One day everything is going to fall apart, but I want to know that in my heart God has created something absolutely eternally beautiful. It's interesting, when Samuel was looking at the sons of Jesse to find one who would be the next king, Samuel was looking on appearance, but God was looking at the heart. It literally says, but the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That is the heart of our Lord. People often look at how tall and handsome or appealing someone is, but God truly looks at the inner beauty that we hold. Is it there? Is it present? What is our practical response to this conversation? So what are the examples in the Bible of people who actually did have great physical beauty and used it and stewarded that gift in the way that God wanted them to? And a good example of this is Esther, who was a beautiful queen in the Bible, and she used her beauty literally to save a whole nation. The Bible literally says that Esther had a lovely figure and was beautiful. So clearly she was gorgeous. But this woman wasn't just physically gorgeous. She had courage, she had character. She literally put her life at risk to save her whole entire nation. So in a sense, she used her beauty in a sacrificial manner. So there was that duality in her, that she was outwardly very appealing, but she also was full of beauty on the inside. She was full of courage, self-sacrifice, where she used her beauty not for selfish gain, not to sort of just appeal to men's lust and whatnot. She used her beauty towards eternal purposes, and God rewarded her for that. Another great example in the Bible where it actually mentions their physical appearance is Joseph. Now, Joseph was well built and handsome. Potiphar's wife was trying to seduce him. He fled from her. He literally was like, how can I do this great evil against God? So, he could have tapped into that. He could have used his sex appeal to commit a sin, but he ran away from that. In fact, he chose to suffer, right? And one day God elevated to a status of a ruler over Egypt. Both of these biblical examples show us examples of people who did not wrap their whole identity in their physical appearance. Instead, they wrapped their identity in something far more eternal, in their relationship with God, in being obedient and denying themselves and choosing to suffer for the greater cause, for greater beauties in life. So if you happen to be a beautiful woman or a beautiful man and you have physical attractiveness, first of all, you need to understand that you have a gift. Are you being a good steward of that gift? Are you developing, and working on things that are beyond the surface? Are you developing a character that is truly beautiful, that matches the outward? My hope is that when girls look at these commercials like Sydney Sweeney, is that they don't fall for this idea that this is actually what you ought to be doing, if you're a physically attractive woman or girl. I hope you rise above that, because you understand that that beauty is fleeting, is there for a second. One day you're going to be old and wrinkly, and that's it. That's going to die. But I hope that young women look at these things with caution, that they don't wrap their identity on what's the newest, sex symbol, rather than worshiping beauty, that we worship the beauty giver. That in the name of physical appearances, we do not neglect our inner beauty, our inner world that God calls us to cultivate as women. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. Consider commenting, liking this video, subscribe to my channel if you have not, and I'll see you guys in the next video.